Welcome to this beginner jazz piano tutorial on the tune Georgia on My Mind. In this lesson we will learn how to arrange lead sheets using spread voicings. We will then introduce a stride style in our left hand, and towards the end of the tutorial we will touch upon some more advanced arranging techniques and principles. Georgia on My Mind is written in the key of F major, and so let's start with a quick recap of the diatonic 7th chords and also the common progressions in the key of F. All of the notation that I'm showing you can be found in the PDF workbook below this video. Let's start with the F major scale. And now let's build a diatonic 7th chord from each note of the scale. I'm going to play the 7th chord in my right hand and the root note in my left hand. So for the 1 chord, we have F major 7. For the 2 chord, we have G minor 7. The 3 chord is an A minor 7. The 4 chord, B flat major 7. The 5 chord is a C7. The 6 chord is a D minor 7, although as we'll see it's often played as a D7. The 7 chord is an E minor 7 flat 5, and then we're back to F major. The drills that I'm going to show you now will prepare you for playing Georgia on My Mind with two-handed spread voicings. The first step is to split the notes of the chord over 2 hands. So now we're going to play the root in our left hand and just the 3 and the 7 in our right hand. So the 1 chord, F major 7, the 2 chord, G minor 7, the 3, A minor 7, the 4, B flat major 7, 5 is C7, the 6 is D minor 7 or D7 as we'll see. The 7 is an E minor 7 flat 5, and then back to the roots we have a F major 7 chord. So the next step is to move the bass note down. So what's important is to be able to visualize these shapes, but with these notes spread out, particularly over 2 octaves. So now instead of playing this, we're going to play this. You can hear already we have a richer sound. So F major 7, the 1 chord, the 2 G minor 7, the 3 A minor 7, the 4 is B flat major 7, the 5 is C7, the 6 is D minor 7, the 7 is E minor 7 with a flat 5, which we'll come on to shortly, and then we're back to the roots, or the 1 chord F major 7. The final diatonic exercise is to add the 5th into the bass. So instead of playing this, we're going to add the 5 down here. And now if we compare that to this voicing, you can hear we have a much bigger and a more balanced sound. So F major 7, the 1 chord, G minor 7, the 2 chord, A minor 7, the 3 chord, B flat major 7, the 4, C7, the 5, D minor 7, the 6, E minor 7 flat 5, the 7 chord, and back to F major. So what we've just covered is the basics of spread voicings, and the reason we play these is that they give us a much more balanced sound on the piano. So if we think of this in context of the 2-5-1 progression, which is the most common progression in jazz music, here is a 2-5-1 in F major. On the left hand side I'm using the root position chords, and on the right hand side I'm using spread voicings. And so I want you to listen to these two progressions so that you can hear the difference in these voicing techniques. For the 2-5-1 in root position, here's how it sounds. And for the 2-5-1 with spread voicings, here's how it sounds. If you listen to the root position version, you can hear that it sounds quite thin, so the voicings are limited in this range of the piano. The left hand also has to jump up to here, and then back down to here. If we compare this to the version with spread voicings, the sound is more balanced, and the hand movement is kept to a minimum. Notice my hands barely move. G minor 7, C7, F major 7. So let's take this a step further and let's introduce the 3-6-2-5-1 progression. The 3-6-2-5-1 progression is also a very common progression, similar to the 2-5-1, and as we will see when we study the tune Georgia shortly, this progression is very common in jazz standards. So again, we're going to play the roots down here and the 3rds and 7ths up here. So here we have A minor 7, the 3 chord, and as I mentioned, the 6 is often played as a dominant chord, and when the 6 is a dominant, we just drop the 7 of the 3 chord, and now we're at the 6 chord, D7. To get down to the G minor chord is what we played a second ago, so we have the root, 3 and 7. And remember in 2-5-1s, the 7s always drop a half step to the third, so G minor 7, C7, and then F major 7. So let me play through that without talking. So everything we've just covered will be very useful to you when arranging Georgia and arranging any other tune that's in the key of F major. All of the notation I showed you can be found in the PDF download, so remember to download a copy. I will now show you step by step how you can create a soulful, bluesy arrangement of the tune Georgia. The most basic technique to arrange a lead sheet is to use spread voicings. As we've just seen, to construct a spread voicing, we can take the notes of any 7th chord and we distribute the notes between 2 hands. So let's look at this in context of the tune. The first bar, we have an F major 7. So here's our F major 7 shape in root position, and we have the melody here. But if we play like this, it doesn't sound too great. So the first thing we do is put the root down into the lower register, and then we have the melody here, and then we need to fill in the 3rd and 7th somewhere in between. So if we look back at our root position F major 7, here's the 3 and here's the 7. So we could play this voicing. You can hear that we have a bigger sound. Now what's important to notice here is that we have the 3rd in the melody, so we don't need to double the 3rd here. So we can play this. And a final tip, sometimes it's nice to add the 5 into the bass, as we did in our practice exercise. So that's a nice voicing to start the tune. Add a grace note as well, which we'll cover shortly. So for the second chord, we have an A7. So again, let's follow the process. Here's our A7 chord in root position, the root, 3, 5, and 7, and here's our melody notes. Now the first thing to do is to move the root down to the bass, and then we need to add the 3rd and 7th in between. If I add the 3rd and 7th here, you can hear that this is quite dense around the melody. So instead, I'm going to flip the order of the 3rd and 7th, and I'm actually going to play the 7 with my left hand. So an important point is that the 3rd and 7th can be played with either hand. We don't have to play like this, we can play whatever is most comfortable to get a very even spread on the notes. So often, this role of playing the 3rd and 7th will be shared between both hands. Let's now play through the first 8 bars and notice that I am outlining the quarter note pulse with my left hand. I recommend that you incorporate this into your practice, and it will help you to transition into the stride left hand style that we're going to cover shortly. So here's the first 8 bars. So let's break this down. We've already looked at the first 2 voicings, so we have F major 7. I'm going to explain what these grace notes are shortly, and then the A7. And then we go down to a D minor. Now notice that the lead sheet just says D minor and not D minor 7. So what this is asking for is just a D minor triad, and we can build this chord out by playing this in the right hand and then the root and 5 down here. And this creates a nice solid sound. I then move up and play the triad, and the next chord is interesting. So we have a D minor 7 over C. Now that sounds very complicated, but really it's quite simple to understand. So D minor 7 is here, C is the 7th, and it's asking for D minor 7 over C. So this is the voicing we'd play. Now usually when you have a slash chord like this, so D minor 7 slash C, or over C, this is indicating some kind of bassline movement. So if we look at what's happening, we have a D minor triad, a D minor 7 over C, and in the next bar we have a B minor 7 flat 5. So you can see we have a descending bass line. It even goes down again, we have B flat minor 7. Notice I'm playing here with spread voicings, I'm not playing this. Root 3 and 7, I'm playing like this, and then down to E flat 7. And particularly here, I'm getting a bigger range. So let's play through the first line. I'll add the melody at the end, and then we will move on to the second line. Now the chords on the second line should be familiar to you. If we analyze these chords, we can see that we have 2 repeating 3-6-2-5 progressions. So instead of having 8 individual chords, we just have 2 repeating progressions. And this can help us to condense and visualize the harmony in 2 very distinct blocks. Notice that the 6th chord is a dominant chord, so it's not a D minor 7, it's a D7. And this is very common when playing jazz standards. So let's play through with 3-note voicings. There's our first voicing, so in A minor 7 we have the root, the melody, and the 3 and the 7 in between. Second voicing, here's a D7, so the root, the melody, and the 3 and 7, or the 3rd and the 7 in between. So we have D7, then G minor 7, let's play like this. So root 5, 7 and 3. The C7, we have the melody and the roots, and then the 7 and 3 in between. And here, notice we have a tied melody note. So here we can just play the same exercise that we did in the introduction. A minor 7, D7, G minor 7, C7. An easier way to play that would be to play A minor 7, D7, and then bring the 3rd and 7th up here, G minor 7 to C7. And then we're back to the second A section. Now that we understand the basics of the harmony, let's introduce a stride left-hand style. To play a stride style, the left hand plays the root in the lower register of the piano. So we'll play the root around here, and then our left hand comes up to play the chord again, but we wouldn't play the voicing like this. The reason is we've already established the roots down here, so we don't need to repeat it. The simplest stride is just to play root and then 3 and 7. So remember, these are the essential chord tones. And we can play the 3 and 7 in any order, so here's 7 and 3. And it can be a nice exercise to circle around like this. We can also add the 5th into the left hand, so remember with our spread voicings, we played root and 5, 7 and 3, so we can play this in our left hand to get a stronger foundation, and we can also add the 5th in here. So this will create a very nice foundation. Let's do the same for the second chord. So here we would play the root, so A7, and then let's play the 3rd and 7. So here's the 3rd, here's the 7. And there's our voicing. You could add the 5, but in this case I prefer with just the root. Let's play through the first 8 bars with a stride style. If you are new to stride piano, it can be challenging to move between the chords whilst keeping a steady pulse. So here are some useful exercises. The first thing is just to start with a single chord type and change the inversion of the rootless voicing. So if we take that F major chord, we'll play root and 5 down here, and to the 3 and 7. So this is a rootless voicing because we're playing F major 7, but we've omitted the root. So we can play like this, and we can invert the 3rd and 7th and just cycle around like this. So we need to focus on accuracy and very smooth playing. The next step is to add the second chord, so we'll play the A7 as well. And now cycle around F major 7, A7. And remember, we want to connect these chords as smoothly as possible. And the idea is for the left hand to do this on autopilot. So one of the main benefits of the stride style is that when we are outlining both the harmony and the pulse of the tune in our left hand, it then frees up our right hand for melodic embellishment. Another useful progression is to play the 3-6-2-5 progression in a stride style. So let's move back to the notation we looked at earlier. So we can play the 3 chord, A minor 7, root 7 and 3 to the 6, root 3 and 7 to the 2, root 7 and 3 to the 5, root 3 and 7. And then go back to the 3 chord. So 3, 6, 2, 5, 3, 6, 2, 5, and we can go to the 1 and that would finish the progression. The next step is to add the melody on the second line, and we can also play around with some of the chord colours. So go to an A7 first, to D7, let's stick with G minor 7 for now, and then to A minor 7, D7, G minor 7, C7, and so when we outline both the harmony and the pulse of the tune in our left hand, we can then start to add some interesting melodies. One of the limitations of the piano is that we cannot bend the notes and we cannot play in between the notes like a singer or a horn player. The closest way that we can achieve this is to use grace notes, and this blurs the distinction between two tones, and in effect that creates a more human and a more soulful aspect. For the first chord, we can grace note by a half step. We can also do a full step grace note, so instead of a half step below, we do a full step. And notice it sounds slightly different. This one sounds a bit bluesier and a bit sharper, and this one sounds a little smoother. You can also play both together, or even triple ones. And when you play triple ones, this is when, we start to use the whole hand. And so that's when it's useful to have our stride style. So I'll play through the A section and let's talk about the different grace notes we can add. So there I played down to D minor. So there I'm playing. We could also play. So that gives us a bit more bluesy sound. Moving on to the second line, a whole step grace note, and I'm playing this A minor 7 as an A7. And it sounds nice when we have the root in the melody. That can be tricky to do with the pinky finger, so you can do like that if it's more comfortable. Here's a nice thing. So what I'm seeing there is the F triad. So we have G minor. So and then just to a simple stride. If you like this style, we have a full course on this tune, and also we have many blues courses which cover this material. So by now you should understand the harmony of the tune, you know how to create a steady pulse using a stride left-hand style, and you know how to create melodic decoration using grace notes and blues licks. I will now play through again with some more advanced voicings and arrangement techniques. So there we introduced some 10th intervals in the left hand. So that first chord, notice I'm playing the F triad, but with the third up here. And I'm also playing an F triad here, but blocked. And this is a nice bluesy sound. More walk-ups and grace notes. And then inner voices. And that's a nice contrasting melody line, so country motion. Some more interesting blues licks. Again, tenths in the left hand. More tenths. We can play a big voicing here. So some more big voicings. So check out the full course on the Piano Groove website where we cover all of these different devices in more detail. I've been playing this tune for many years, and every time that I pick it up I find new and interesting ways to voice the chords and to add melodic decoration and embellishment. Understand that the tunes that we play are always in a fluid state, and so as we learn new theory and as we develop as musicians, we are always enhancing and tweaking our arrangements. I hope you have fun practicing this stuff. Playing this tune brings me a lot of enjoyment, and I hope it does for you too. If you have any questions or comments with what I've covered today, you can post these below, and I will see you next time.